Hazard Pay is back on, baby. Hazard Pay is in the third stimulus check package, the $1,400 third stimulus package. But how does it work? It's $1,500 if you made less than $25,000 as an essential worker during the pandemic. But what about that $10,000 from Nancy Pelosi in Hazard Pay in 2020? In this throwback video, I explain essential workers who qualify for Hazard Pay, how the concept worked in 2020, and whether it can come back as well. Enjoy this throwback video explaining Hazard Pay. Big box retailers debut incredible earnings numbers overnight. But what does that have to do with your Hazard Pay? Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LLA. Hope you're good and safe. This is Afternoon's LLA that starts every day at 3:30 with a check, then goes to Hazard Pay, FPUC next, and finally rent assistance. Really shocking news, but not unprecedented overnight, about the future of Hazard Pay in the context of retailers. Moreover, shocking news that may not be good for some as the future of Hazard Pay from the Republican standpoint. First, the second news. Minutes ago, LLA had reported that the Republicans are set to debut not the first, but their fifth version of their second stimulus package in what is being called a skinny bill, a watered-down, shrunken honey, who shrunk the bill? Who shrunk the Republican bill? As though $1 trillion was not robust enough, it's being shrunk down, apparently, to something under $1 trillion. So what will happen with Hazard Pay? Here's the bad news. All indications suggest that the Republican second stimulus package to be debuted later this afternoon won't have Hazard Pay in it. Now, it was not in their first stimulus package, the HEALS Act. And in the four or five revisions or, versions thereafter, it came in and came out. Let me recap what's going on. Almost 3 weeks ago or so, the HEALS Act was debuted into Congress. It was written by Mitch McConnell, was introduced by the Senate, and it did not have Hazard Pay in the bill. The Democrats did have Hazard Pay in their bill. It was passed in the House, landed in the Senate, and that has really been the topic of this channel for several weeks. More about that in a second, those $10,000 calculations. But Mitch's bill, the HEALS Act, didn't have Hazard Pay in there. Then the next item came up was the oral bill, the non-written version of the bill, that became Steve Mnuchin's negotiating point with Nancy Pelosi over 2 weeks. That part of the bill we never saw. It was Steve Mnuchin's version of how to do a second stimulus package. It was clearly a digression from Mitch McConnell. We know it was true. And there was no indication that he and Nancy disagreed ever with Hazard Pay. There was no indication that she had ever gotten rid of Hazard Pay. So there was always good news for over those 2 weeks that I reported that Hazard Pay was still on the table. Then came the executive orders. The executive orders issued over a week ago on a Saturday mentioned nothing about Hazard Pay, but they weren't intended to be comprehensive about all things that the Republicans wanted. So there was nothing negative in there as to Hazard Pay. Then came last Friday. That was actually good news as to Hazard Pay from a Republican standpoint. The president issued a series of tweets that said, hey, I want to provide additional financial relief to frontline workers, and cited 4 industries. As I explained yesterday, those weren't intended to be the only industries paid under Hazard Pay. It was just what the president was proposing as to his latest version of a second stimulus package. Fire, police, first responders, teachers, and medical professionals. So that was where we were then. Nancy Pelosi, meantime, still is on book with the same original Hazard Pay bill to this very minute as I sit here and record. Well, late today, we are set to see, if not after the time of this recording this video, the Republicans' version yet again. This would be the 5th version of their second stimulus package, which has basically been dubbed as a skinny bill. The skinny bill reportedly is coming in under $1 trillion. Their HEALS Act was at $1 trillion. Nancy's at $3 trillion. The CARES Act in March, the first stimulus package, was $2 trillion. The Republicans apparently supported, and I'll tell you why. They support it because apparently when Mitch was doing the HEALS Act at $1 trillion, there was a fraction of Republicans that simply didn't even want to spend that amount of money. They didn't want to spend much of anything. They were more interested staying at home and looking at Tesla 5-for-1 stock splits. Well, apparently they're now on board because Mitch's latest version gives less relief to more people. Oh my goodness. So there we go. What does this mean for you? What this means for you is that from a Republican standpoint and from a negotiation standpoint, the future of hazard pay may be in trouble again. Because ultimately, if the Republicans are now pushing no hazard pay, then we're back to a no versus yes negotiation standpoint. What is in the skinny bill? Well, there is PPP money for businesses and big businesses. There's liability insurance for big businesses. There's all this wonderful big business stuff, but how about your frontline work? No. Sorry. No, don't come back asking for seconds. No. It's just a little bit crazy that, as weeks have gone on, now we see the Republicans actually pulling back and not even wanting to give anything for employees and are focusing more on big businesses yet again. So what does this say for you from the Democratic standpoint? Well, the Democrats have not endorse yet a skinnier bill. This channel has been blasting the Democrats, on the other hand, for the last 24 hours and saying, hey, you know why stimulus checks have not gone out is because it's in a big package. There's a lot of stuff that people just don't want, and you need a skinny bill as well. Apparently, the idea of skinny bill has been pushed upon Nancy by other Democrats to say, hey, you're not working with this big bloated bill. Isn't just not working. It's just not getting anywhere. You need to do a skinny bill or a standalone bill for the second stimulus check. Well, what about hazard pay? Where does hazard pay go? It's sort of like, picking teams for that basketball team when you're in 4th grade and you're at the last person. Who wants hazard pay? Don't leave hazard pay. Someone has to take hazard pay on the team. Well, it's really not clear. What's also really not clear is the following, which you could interpret as very good news. Overnight, big box retailers in this nation reported earnings numbers. And they weren't just good. They were insanely good. Whether it's Walmart, Home Depot, Target, Lowe's, all the big box retailers who did very well during the pandemic because of because of its frontline workers, made literally fortunes. And so those big box retailers are now reporting a massive amounts of earnings. So will you be getting hazard pay for those retailers? Well, over the last couple of weeks, I've detailed a few of them are giving you hazard pay. They're not calling it hazard pay. They're calling it bonuses. They include Walmart. They include Amazon. They're wonderful one-time drops of money, lump sums landing in your bank account in the month of August or September, whether you're full-time or part-time. Amen to them. But could there be more hazard pay for you if you work at Walmart or Amazon going forward and companies like that? Indications suggest yes. Here is the rub, and this is what's a little bit complicated to report. So sit back, hold up, grab your Nancy Pelosi and Mark Meadows voodoo dolls, and let's get to it. First of all, hazard pay is called hazard pay for purpose of a congressional bill, but businesses don't want to call it hazard pay. They call it bonus or pandemic, bonuses or enhanced employment. The reason why is they don't want to call their place of work hazardous. Just, it's sort of obvious. They don't want to say, hey, thank you for coming to hazardous. Here's some hazard pay. They just don't want to say that. So they call it a bonus. Now, here's the next part of it. Now that we understand the terminology. A lot of those paid money the first time around in March and April because it was massive lines like, remember those Costco tweets, those tweets at Costco where there was people like, outside the door for toilet paper. They wanted to pay frontline workers more money because they were having to do so much more money, do much more work to service those patrons. Well, as that in-store business went down and less people were struggling to fight over toilet paper, then businesses didn't want to pay hazard pay. So what happened after that was a lot of businesses then came out, and these are generally grocery stores, and these are unionized grocery stores, said, hey, we don't want to pay these bonuses going forward because, one, we don't see the massive surge of people in supermarkets like we did back in March. Two, we're back to normal pre-pandemic conditions. Three, there's nothing really, unusual about our business operations anymore. We're just here. Businesses just as flowing as normal, just show up to work, thank you so much. Well, unions, for example, don't like that. And this is what I'm trying to impart to you, which is a little bit confusing, that businesses think that hazard pay is tied to the number of people in the store, not to how hazardous the environment is. So they think they should pay you hazard pay when there's a lot of people around in the store, but not pay you hazard pay when there isn't a lot of people in the store, but the pandemic's still killing thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. It's that sort of disconnect that's at issue. So and I'm not saying that this is a policy of any of the businesses I'm citing in this video, but I'm telling you that Walmart, Lowe's, Target had enormous earnings reports, absolutely enormous earnings reports. They're making fortunes. So could you see bonuses coming to you from these businesses in the next couple of weeks because they're doing so well? Highly likely. Moreover, if you follow the tracking of what I just explained to you on this rationale of when to pay bonuses, they're more likely to start paying bonuses to their employees going forward than a grocery store, because grocery stores are not seeing the type of early pandemic surges of people. But Walmart, Amazon, Target are still seeing enormous numbers of daily sales that they did not see pre-pandemic. They are absolutely making fortunes because there's so much work. And because there's so much work, you're required to do so much more, and you may get more bonuses. I cannot speak for these individual companies, of course, but that is what's going on. What also makes this really quite interesting is what will happen going forward. Going forward, we simply don't know the future of hazard pay during these negotiations. Hazard pay is ultimately not getting airtime. And as I've said to you in video after video for the last couple of weeks, if you don't get airtime, if you don't have a publicist for your second stimulus provision, then who's going to argue for it for you? Viewers have sent me some really nice comments. They're like, hey, LA, you're the only one that talks about hazard pay. I got it. I see it. They're like, no one's talking about hazard pay but you. I got it. But if no one else is talking about it, who's going to fight for it for you? Republicans appear not to be willing to give you hazard pay now. Democrats are not talking about hazard pay as a regular subject matter. So could hazard pay go by the sidelines very quickly, very soon? Hard to say. Ultimately, you can perceive it in two different regards. If you think that a skinny bill helps a second stimulus check get out, then that might help the check, but it may hurt hazard pay. If you think that a standalone bill for the second stimulus check may help you get the check out, that may ultimately hurt hazard pay, because hazard pay is part of a very large second stimulus package that doesn't have support from both sides of the political spectrum. And as you start to take the parts out that do have support, then the parts that are at issue may soon fall apart. This has always been Nancy Pelosi's position. And so ultimately you can decide on whether or not it's good negotiation or bad negotiation. My position is the following, that stimulus checks are so absolutely urgently needed. Stimulus checks are needed more than anything else and should have been sent out months ago. Get those out right now, then leave all the rest of the stimulus package together. Leave it all together, keep it together, and negotiate off the remainder of that second stimulus package. Ultimately, if they do that, hazard pay is still in full swarm and full in strength to be negotiated upon. But if you start to see Democrats take out FPUC, take out stimulus check, take out little bits and parts, what are you left with? Hazard pay, the unforgotten child by itself. It's really disconcerting, but a little bit very confusing. For now, we really just don't know the answer. go to the front of this channel and hit that subscribe and alert button, because I'm keeping you up to date as to everything that's happening. Later today, I expect to see the second stimulus package skinny down version from the Republicans' debut. So hit that alert. I will update you as soon as it comes out. If you're not getting alerts from this channel when new videos go live, go into the pinned comment, see my pinned comment, and I have a guide there as to how you get alerts. We're coming up on 200,000 subscribers. We launched this channel on April 25th. No one in 4 months of a YouTube channel in YouTube history has ever hit 200,000 subscribers in 4 months. It's totally insane. We thank you for the support. This channel is all about helping one another, helping the spirit of camaraderie, working together as a team, not working divisively. We're a purple spirit that is neither partisan nor focused on either Republican or Democrat beliefs. It's about getting people what they need and what they absolutely need to survive during this pandemic. Coming up next is FPUC, which you have to watch. That's getting really confusing very quickly. And then rent assistance. As always, stay informed, stay motivated, stay smiling, and stay of LA.